are the ones that come in constantly hurt.
So to kind of coin Blaise here and talk out of the box a little bit, the biggest things that we see as far as injuries are, and I think most people on the panel would agree, one, bad shoes. Okay, or the shoes that aren't right for their physiology. But we see injuries with people that have either tried too much training or overtraining, like these guys are talking about. And a lot of those people, the characteristics we see is, one, they have a bad strike pattern. Okay, in other words, they're heel strikers or they're hard strikers. The Chinese have a saying, and I do a lot of Oriental medicine in my practice, and we use acupuncture a great deal as a treatment modality, is when we're doing running training, don't run like an elephant. And what that means is listen to yourself run. Listen not only to your cadence, but how do you sound? Are you louder? Are you softer? Can you sneak up on that person in front of you? You know, be light on your feet. So heavy strikers are people that we see. And the two other common problems we see are, one is called a loss of ankle rock. What does that mean? I just brought a prop so I can show you. This is a foot. Okay, we have our tibia and our fibula that come down, and this motion back and forth is called rocker. So when we strike the ground, our tibia is back here. It should come forward a certain amount as our legs decelerate, and we propel ourselves and go into supination and we push forward. This is called ankle rocker. We need a certain amount of that ankle rocker so that we don't have injuries. If I don't rock here, and a lot of people stop at 90 degrees, well, I still need to get my center of gravity over that foot. So what do? Well, maybe I flex too early here and I drive these metatarsal heads into the ground and create metatarsal pain. Maybe I have to adduct the heel to get forward. And now I start to develop plantar fascial pain. So this loss of ankle rocker. And the third characteristic that we see all the time, and these are things that you'll see when you watch them walk. You'll be able to just see, you watch them walk, and as they're walking by, their ankle just stops. It doesn't go beyond that 90-degree mark. Okay? We should have about 30 degrees, at least 20 degrees of ankle dorsiflexion, or this motion, to walk normally. And the third thing that we see is people don't have enough hip extension. When we're talking about hip, their thigh doesn't come too far past the butt. A lot of people stop at 0. The gal that Blaise had in his talk before, the ultra-marathoner with the overpronation problem, who obviously has overcome her physiological shortcomings, all of her motion was occurring, okay, in her lumbar spine. Okay? She didn't have any hip extension. She needed to extend someplace because her body's moving forward. She's extending in her lower back. The pronation causes her legs to spin inward. Her pelvis goes forward. She can't extend her hips, so it has to occur someplace. So loss of hip extension. And when you look at people running from the side, their hip should come beyond where their butt is. It shouldn't just stop where their butt is. They don't have that extension. It has to occur someplace else. A lot of people that run and have low back pain and don't engage their abdominal muscles develop low back pain because they have this lack of hip extension. The motion occurs in the lumbar spine, and your lower back joints are only made to carry about 20% of the load. Well, now I'm impacting my body weight times the acceleration due to gravity times however many steps per mile, and I start to insult those joints and creates injuries.
Just a quick thing about the same question. Studies show 2 factors that are predictive of injuries. The most important one, it's no running experience, so that's always the same thing we said. Someone that didn't run and start to run too fast, too soon, too much. And the other thing is running with an injury. So if you have an injuries that are not fully recovery, you're more prone to have another injuries. And that's probably because you change, even unconsciously, your biomechanics. And that's the second point. When you change something, can be the shoes, can be your biomechanic, you expose your body to new kind of stress, and you expose this to some injury. So every change must be absolutely credible.
Sure.
I think what, sort of piggybacking on what Blaise just said, I think it's really useful, and we keep coming back to this graph, and I really think that's probably the most critical thing of all, is if you just think about those 2 lines, the red line and the yellow line, and you make a change, and the red line's going to come down for a little bit until you adapt. And it could be a new pair of shoes, it could be compensating for an injury. Those, that red line's not fixed, it's going to change its position depending what you're doing. So exceeding that stress line is really what's going to cause the problems, but that stress line can change depending on what you're doing at any given moment. So.
Yeah, what Ivo said, and with there's a lack of hip extension and dorsiflexion of the ankle. The folks who have done our little workshops, we've done the assessment for that. So if anyone wants to learn how to do a quick assessment, 4:30 clinic, we'll go out and I'll show you how to do that. You can do it in about 2 minutes with folks. But one question I'm sure is kind of burning in the audience's mind too. You know, having Frank here is just amazing. His breadth of experience and knowledge and evolution of learning. And he's been through the whole evolution of the shoe. But I'd like to just hear from Frank, when you were starting to run back in the 70s, did people even think about footwear? Like, as all this was happening, what was going through your mind? Or you just put something on and ran?
Well, the idea, again, the intuition was the lighter the shoe, the better. Because, you know, if you don't have to carry this heavy thing on your foot, you're just going to be able to save the energy. The other part of it is, I think those of us who were training in the early 70s, we understood surface, and in a sense we were minimalist with no choice. And what we then had to do was adapt to that. So what we also found we would do, for instance, a lot of running on grass, a lot of running on synthetic tracks. And I think I had to. And I can explain this with a little anecdote about last year. I was at an event, and the doctor, it was one of the rock and roll events, and the doctor who's the doctor for all the series had a friend in this particular city, and she was going to come in, and she was a physiotherapist, and she was going to work on my back and do some stuff like that. So I'm sitting there in this you know, screened off area, and I've got my shorts on, and I just happened to have my shoes off, but she was going to work on my back, and she came in, and she just happened to look down at my feet, and the words that spontaneously came out of her mouth were, "Holy Mother of God," when she saw my feet. And I was born with that feet. And so that's why I think it's such serendipity that I'm here when the ideas of, you know, just where the minimalist movement fits in, is that I always run the way in the presentation it showed the barefoot runner ran. That has always been my form, whether I'm wearing shoes or not. And so I had to learn how to run light on my feet, and the result was, you see, those of us in the early days of running, we were the anecdotal experience that then, when exercise physiology started as a science, which has only been around since the mid to late 60s, how do you think they came up with the protocols? They looked to see what the successful athletes were doing, and then they studied it to find out why it worked. Okay? And so we intuitively knew that we had to be light on our feet for this. I had to instinctively learn to be that way. And lo and behold, they start to measure, my friction coefficient's one of the lightest they ever measured. Okay? My efficiency is such that when I run along at steady state, when they were measuring back in the 70s at a 5-minute pace, my pulse rate at a steady 5-minute pace was 144 beats a minute. Okay? And so I was very, very efficient, but I had to learn to do that. Now, what I would like to take the opportunity here is to sort of introduce my sort of encapsulated view of just what this controversy kind of means, because I'm someone who knew how to adapt, and I had to. But it also meant that this neural patterning that I set up came from years and years of growing up, running to and from school, and all this stuff. I had to learn to be light on my feet. And so I do have a difficult time thinking you can put some socks on, run on cement, and suddenly years of neural patterning miraculously change.